Good afternoon. Today we're going to do a demonstration of M-Files document management software. We'll start out with a brief PowerPoint presentation and then transition right into a live software demo. Hopefully the PowerPoint will give you some background information on M-Files and our product. We're a global company with international headquarters in Finland, United States and North America and South America headquarters in Dallas, Texas. We have customers of all sizes in more than 100 countries, and our software is being used in 24 different languages. And while we have many very large customers that have multiple thousands of users, our bread and butter customer has always been the small to mid-sized company in that 5 to 50 user range. There's two reasons for that. Number one, our pricing model is not a barrier to those small to mid-sized companies and allow them to engage with us to bring in an enterprise class product like M-Files. Number two, the fact that we're so tightly integrated with Microsoft Office and Microsoft Explorer, Windows Explorer, makes it for a very comfortable product for most companies to embrace. Everybody knows how to work in Windows. Everybody knows how to left click, right click, drag and drop. And so given that our software is so tightly integrated, our implementations typically are done in 3 to 5 days, and that includes training for the end users. If you visit our website, you'll see that we have many case studies across many vertical markets, and so these will provide you with a great deal of information if you fall into one of these markets. So M-Files is embraced across pretty much everything in the marketplace, and we have a lot of great case studies out there that can show you how these companies have used M-Files to improve their business processes. In terms of industry acceptance, we have some information I'm going to go into from Gartner Group and Forrester Research that will tell you about what they think about our product after the due diligence that they have done. So as far as the Gartner Group's Magic Quadrant, and you may be familiar with the Gartner Group, they do these reports for technology sectors, and they make them available to companies looking to invest in technology. Our sector is called Enterprise Content Management. And you can see that we entered down here in 2012 into this niche player space with every intention of migrating eastbound to the Visionaries Quadrant. So you can see when they looked at us again in 2013 that we did in fact make a very big move, in fact bigger than anyone else did in the whole list. So hopefully next year when they look at us, they'll find out that we are now up here in their opinion, and we can continue to grow and evolve, hopefully making it up here into the leaders quadrant with some of the big companies like Microsoft, IBM, HP, and EMC as we continue to grow. The things that Gartner found about M-Files that they called strengths are here on this slide, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time here giving you some background on M-Files and our philosophy. We do things a little bit differently. Most of you are used to working in an environment where you probably have a shared drive out on your network somewhere where you're keeping your folders and your files. Most of you also probably have file cabinets where you're storing paper files. Well, we call that, or what that's classified as, is storing information or managing information by where it's stored. With M-Files, we do things a little bit differently. We manage information by what something is, not where it's stored. So everything in M-Files is only in one place, and that's in our document vault. We classify everything in the vault with certain descriptive properties that we call metadata. And so M-Files is a 100% metadata-driven architecture. So you'll be able to classify things with like the type of document that it is, the customer it's associated with, the date that's associated with that document, the project, the vendor, the employee, and also that document will also control who has access to it. Of course, you can change that on the fly as you're saving documents into the vault as well. So what that means is that M-Files is a completely folderless system. Everything is stored in the vault, and you can get to it by searching based on any of this metadata as well as any of the contents of the document or the file itself. The Gartner Group also liked our navigation, our ease of use, the fact that we have a very robust and strong security access and control feature built in that we call permissions, and we also provide replication and archiving. This is either all or part of your vault, and this comes into play for companies that have a distributed workforce where maybe they have employees in another country where their bandwidth maybe is a little bit less than desirable to be able to satisfactorily download large files. So the vault can be replicated into a local server where that download time can be dramatically decreased. We also support workflow included built into the product that ties in with your email and notifications as well as your assignments location within the mFiles user interface that we call the client. What you'll see is that mFiles Vault looks just like another drive to the system called the M drive. So anything that you can save as or drag and drop, you can save into the Vault. You'll also find that we are fully integrated with the Microsoft Office suite with mFiles buttons inside these applications that will provide you with some additional capabilities. There also is a seamless integration with Microsoft Outlook. I highlight this because managing emails today is one of the biggest priorities that most companies have. And for their IT department, it's one of the biggest pains that they have to deal with is that ever-growing Exchange server and all the storage that takes place out there, and many of it being duplicates. We support on-premise and cloud, either infrastructure type implementation, whatever you'd like, whatever supports your requirements. If you do not have an IT department, you do not have a server, then you could buy mFiles and we can host it for you in the cloud, which is hosted by Microsoft in their Azure Data Center network. If you do have an IT staff in place and some infrastructure, you'd like to have your data stored locally in your office, then you would buy an on-premise install. We can support whichever makes the best sense for you. Now, as far as Forrester, they do things a little bit differently, and you can see here's where mFiles is on their contenders wave. This is the first time that we've been on their radar. We're actually very pleased about it because, as you can see, this is a much more select group. There's only 13 companies listed out here, and there's some of these big names again, IBM and OpenText and EMC, and we're very happy to be included in this select group, and we have every intention of migrating through the strong performers and into the leaders category as time goes on. The other thing that you might find out on the internet, if you Google top 10 reviews and then search on enterprise content management, you'll get to this slide where you'll get to this page where they did an independent ranking of 10 products. As you can see, mFiles was ranked #1 with a perfect score of 10. Nobody else even made it into the 9s. And there's some pretty big products out here, OnBase, Laserfish, Alfresco, even IBM with their FileNet product. So even though that some other sites may have ranked them higher than mFiles in terms of their leadership capabilities, when everything is considered together, mFiles truly is one of the leaders in the marketplace. Now this is that all too familiar network folder structure that many of you have to deal with. And so this has really been what has spawned the multi-billion-dollar document management industry that we're a part of, because this is a highly inefficient process. As you continue to grow and add more people and they continue to add more folders and more documents, then it becomes quite a challenge not only to find what you're looking for, but to manage the versions of these documents that you might have to deal with on a day-in, day-out basis. As you can see from this example, here's a proposal with this product created for this customer by this gentleman, Andy, in 2013. So now there's multiple opportunities to save this one proposal out here in many locations. And the analysts, as they study people's networks and how they use them, they come up with a number of alarming statistics. For example, for every document that gets created within the business, there's 19 copies that exist in both hard copies and soft copies. And that's in your desktop of your computer, in your C drive, email attachments. What many people don't consider is when they send an email to 3 people with an attached file, they've created 4 copies of that document out in the world. 1 in their sent folder and 3 in the inbox of the people they emailed it to. And so all of these copies can create a lot of storage nightmares, but also create a serious problem for managing versions because you don't know which one is the most current. mFiles solves this kind of problem very easily. The way we do that is when you're saving documents into what we call the vault, then you can see that the M drive sits out here. Looks like another another drive to your computer. That's when we're going to fill out these properties card, which looks like this, with some relevant information, the type of file or document it is, date, customer, project, whatever is relevant for that type of document. Immediately, the benefits that you will receive, you'll be able to find anything that you have in the vault very quickly based on contents or as well as the metadata. We're always going to store the document one time and one time only. From that moment on, we're only going to store the changes to that document, whether it's a change to the contents or a change to the metadata or a workflow state change as that document goes through an approval process. We also will provide you with the ability to work offline, so you can mark a document or any group of documents to be available when you're not connected to the internet. For example, when you're sitting on an airplane. Dynamic views are one of the key points of mFiles, where you can create saved searches using filters based on all the metadata properties that exist in the vault to make relevant ways for you to find things. Customer views, project views, anything that's relevant to what you're working on. And then also automatic workflow, again, tied to the type of document. So if the type of document you're saving to the vault has workflow associated with it, when you save that document and hit this create button right down here, that workflow will be automatically kicked off. Summarizing a little bit here, we're the only product that's 100% metadata driven. We can use whatever infrastructure platform best meets your needs, cloud, on-premise, or even a combination. So if you have an on-premise product today that you would like to integrate mFiles with, but you want mFiles to be in the cloud, we can do that connection. Our typical implementations, 3 to 5 days. No programming required, fully functional out of the box. It's just something that has to be configured. So we're going to create the vault specifically for your needs, based on your requirements, your structure. We integrate with many third-party products like Microsoft Dynamics CRM, Salesforce.com, Microsoft GP, ConnectWise, AccountMate, SAP, and others. And we're going to provide you with 3 ways to get into the vault and access your data. The Windows client, a web client or browser-based, and then mobile access from your smartphone or your tablet via apps that are available on the App Store. Now in the marketplace, you may have heard of some of these low-end products like Box and Dropbox. Very easy to use because they don't have very many features. And as a result, they're very cheap, if not free in some cases. At the high end of the marketplace, you've heard of some of these products. In fact, some of these were on some of the charts, maybe not even ranked as high as mFiles. Documentum's by EMC, OpenText, Highland is OnBase is their product, DocuWare, Laserfish. Very complex products, lots of features, built on typically an older platform, and also very expensive with implementation cycles that could be as much as 6 months. With mFiles, we believe that we have the best of both worlds. We're going to provide you a system with all of these features found at the high end, but with a product that's as easy to use and deploy as these low-end products, but priced for the mid-sized company, small to mid-sized company. We think that uniquely differentiates us from everybody in the marketplace. So the bottom line, organize everything by what it is, not by where it's stored. Find things that you're looking for quickly and efficiently. Improve security using our permissions-based searching and permissions-based viewing. Be able to share and collaborate not only internally but externally with people outside your business. Stay compliant, because mFiles is a fully compliant product supporting FDA, HIPAA, ISO, and other quality-related aspects of document management with our QMS product. So what's the best value and quickest return, we believe? mFiles DMS or mFiles QMS. Now let's get into the software demonstration. So here's my demo system, and first thing first, we click on the computer. You can see the M drive sitting out here, so anything that you can file save as or drag and drop into the M drive will save it into the vault. Double-clicking on this M drive will also open up the mFiles Windows client, just as it will if you access it through the icon on your desktop. So I double-click here, but now I have several vaults to choose from. You will only have one vault. but we're going to work in this vault here today. So there's a couple times during the demo today when we're going to have to make that selection. This takes me right into the user interface. So let me give you a little bit of a tour. So here within M-Files, immediately you're going to notice what's currently going on with you. I call it a mini dashboard. So you'll be able to see that I currently have this document checked out. Now maybe I did that on purpose so that I'm still working on it. Somebody else can't check it out and edit it. Or maybe I forgot to check it back in. In either case, M-Files tells me, hey, you've got this document checked out. Also, it's going to tell me these are things that I have been working on recently. So maybe I don't even have to find anything through one of these views or through searching. I can simply come down here and scroll through the most current documents that I've been working on and open it right from here without ever having to do any kind of a search. The center section of this screen are what we call those dynamic views. So these are nothing more than saved searches. So for example, you have a customer view or client's view. I double click there and opens up, then there's a list of all the clients. Drilling down into the client will show you everything associated with that client. There's 3 projects, there's many documents, and there's 1 contact person, all in this vault, all associated with that client, with that customer in that customer view. Then those are called common views. Common views are things that everybody that logs in will see. You also have some system views down here, things like shortcuts to the same places that we have, like recently accessed by me, but also you notice we have favorites and we have offline so that we can monitor and manage documents that we have marked for offline use. Then at the top, you have what's called My Views. These are personal views that everybody who logs into M-Files, all of your users, will be able to create relevant ways for them to search and bring back documents based on their job. So somebody in sales might have a different set of views than somebody in accounting. And again, these are nothing more than filters that will look at all of the information in the vault and bring back documents that meet this criteria. And we'll look at some of these views as we're going through the demo here today. At the top of the screen, you can see the search bar. So the search bar is where you can enter any metadata or contents for anything that you're trying to search. Basically, anything you know about the document that you're trying to find, including putting some advanced search parameters together where you could get very specific in returning a very narrow search, very narrow view of documents that you're trying to find. We have customers that have 2 million plus documents in their vault. So maybe the accountant says to them, I'd like to see all of the invoices for vendor XYZ from the 3rd quarter of 2010 that are over $5,000. Well, you can build that very specific search right here using all of those parameters. And we'll play around with the search box a little bit as we go through this demo, of course, today. Now on the left side of the screen is the task pane. So you can see some shortcuts here, just like we had in some of these other views. I could click here and go to that recently accessed by me list and scroll up and down. I can go to documents I have checked out, or I could go to Assign to Me. Now Assign to Me is the other location that will show up on the home page, just like these two do if you have an assignment. That will be the 3rd piece to this little mini dashboard. So when we run a workflow here in a minute, we're going to see that blue bar show up here. Now also over here on the left side of the screen, if I click on a document one time, a couple things happen. It pops up some additional selections here, including the history. So I could now see the history of this document. I could check it in from here and a couple of other things. But now also you might notice that when I clicked on it, the view here on the right side of the screen changed. I now see this specific document, and you can see the name of it, all the statistics about it. It's on version 2, who created it and when, and it's currently checked out to this person here, demo user. But now you also see all the metadata associated with this document, and by clicking on the preview tab, we'll actually provide you with a look at what that document looks like. So in this case, you can see it's just some fake Italian or fake Latin that we're using to create some of these documents from templates. So in this metadata and preview pane, this is where you can get all the information about any document that you have found. But also over here on the right side of the screen is this preview pane can be used with any type of file that you want to store within M-Files. For example, if I search on JPEG, then you can see that we have some pictures in the vault. Simply clicking on one of the pictures shows me the metadata, and clicking the preview pane will actually show me the picture of that picture in the vault right here within the preview pane. Same thing with a video file. If you keep video files in your vault, you can actually display and play the video right here in your preview pane, including the sound. Now, I don't have a speaker in my demo system, but if we did, you would be able to hear the actual audio. So you can play movies, videos, whatever it is, right here within the preview pane. Same thing with CAD files. You can actually open CAD files and view them in a CAD format right here in the preview pane. So this will now go out to the network and search and see if we have the appropriate viewing software for this type of file that we're trying to open, and we'll then come back and open it in a CAD format, allowing me to actually manipulate this drawing right here within the viewer. And our architectural and engineering customers actually love this piece because you can actually, like I said, manipulate this document or this drawing right here, within the viewer. Now, I'm not a CAD person, so really have no idea what I'm doing right now. I just know that you can do these things, and so if you're a CAD person, then you'll like this feature. Same thing with PDFs. Any type of document can be stored in the vault. Any type of file format can be looked at, and of course, if it's a PDF, everything in our PDF vault will be fully text searchable. So you can see there's all the metadata to support this document, and then there's the preview of it. Now, one thing that I also want you to notice, the document that we clicked on happens to have a workflow associated with it. So now a couple of other things popped up here in the task pane that have related to the workflow. Now, I am logged in as an admin user, so I see all of the various steps involved with this workflow, which is reviewing and accepting purchase invoices. But the user would only see the steps that they're authorized to move this document into through the workflow process. So on the task pane over here on the left side of the screen, the other piece that you have is the new button at the top, and that allows you to create new content or new data. So M-Files is also something we call an object-driven architecture. So all of these things are what we call objects. A document is an object, a customer is an object, a project is an object, and they're all objects because they contain data that describes them. So anything that contains data that describes it can be an object in your vault. It will be customized and built for you during the implementation phase. And then based on the permissions, you can allow users to create new content right from here within the user interface. So typically, a lot of this information comes from a connection to a database, whether it's a CRM system or an ERP system or an accounting system, so that your list of customers is now available from when you were trying to classify a document. So here, for example, on this document that I have still checked out, you can see over here in the properties card that there's all the list of customers that we currently have access to. And so then I can choose the customer that this particular proposal is associated with right from that list. You can then create a new customer right from here within the user interface and would add this customer to that list, to that database, as long as my login and my permissions allow me to do that. So this is where you also will create these views. So you can create a new view right here that will predefine and filter out the documents that you want to have, that you want to look at. So for example, here's a view that shows documents by month and year. So all we're doing is looking at the months. So if we look at April and then of 2014, then you can see all the documents that have been generated and put into this vault in that time frame. So all that view is created by simply assigning it a name and then defining that we're looking for a document, and then there's not even any filter because we're getting all documents. We just want them sorted by month and year. So it literally took 15 seconds to create this view. So you will be able to create any number of views that are relevant for you in your job to filter anything out in the vault to show you what you're trying to find. All right, so that's a quick look at the user interface that we call the Windows client. Now I want to go to what we call the server administrator. This is the creation piece of mFiles and the management piece. This is where we're going to create your vault and design the structure of it based on your needs and your requirement. I wanted to show you very quickly how our data is structured. So here are those objects that I mentioned a minute ago, and so here you can see the objects that have been created for this sample vault that we're demoing with today. So just a very common list of business-related things: clients, contractors, employees, projects, properties. The only required object is always going to be the document object. Anything else can be an object. So for example, let me show you what a doctor's office vault structure would look like. Now you can see their objects: patient, appointment, caregiver, child, totally related to what they do, but not anywhere related to the sample that we're showing here today. So anything can be created as an object and can be used by you, the user, to describe the documents and things that you're trying to save into the vault. The next level down in our hierarchy is called class groups. That gives you the ability to group your documents together in ways that are meaningful. This is simply a departmental type view or departmental type grouping, so it's nothing more than to improve the efficiency. So as you're trying to save a document into your vault, you want to be able to find the type of document that you're trying to save very quickly. So if you know you're creating a proposal, then you know that that's under purchasing and sales. Well, there's the proposal. So you could find it very quickly. But you could store these documents in groups different than what you see here, because it can be any way that you want to group them together. For example, here's a vault that belongs to an eye doctor, an ophthalmologist, and they have grouped their documents together based on the process that patients go through when they walk in the door: check in, check out, examination, optical dispensing, and then some departmental related stuff, AP and AR and HR. So now imagine how this works for them. Patient walks in the door, hands their medical insurance card to the check-in clerk. Well, the check-in clerk has mFiles on her workstation or his workstation and quickly can click Add Document from Scanner and stick the medical insurance card on the scanner. Once the scan is done, this structure is presented to the check-in clerk in the properties card. Well, they know they're sitting at check-in, so here's where the medical insurance card lives. And so then they would classify it with these 3 or 4 or 5 different types of information. So this would be a drop-down menu. The patient name would be a drop-down menu. Date of service would be a calendar click, and the medical insurance company would also be a drop-down menu. So it would be a very quick process, probably take just a minute or two to classify this document and hand it back to the patient as they came in the door. So that's why it's all about efficiency in the ways that you can group your documents together. The next level down, of course, is the document types themselves. So this will be your specific types of documents that are relevant for your business. The final level in our hierarchy is the actual metadata, or the properties themselves. So as you can see for a proposal, here is the relevant metadata that's been predefined by you, the customer, that you want to have when a proposal is saved into the vault. Now, some of this will be required information. The rest of it will be optional. You're going to set the rules, and then everybody has to follow those rules. And so they will not be able to complete the classification of the document without filling in the required properties. Then here in the server administrator piece is where we also will connect to things like email. So I mentioned we can work with your email, but we can monitor any email account automatically, pick up emails that come in with their attachments, stick them into the vault, and kick off a workflow, such as job applications or maybe vendor invoices that are getting sent in to an invoices@xyz.com email account. We also can monitor folder locations that we call hot folders out on your network. And this is for scanning of documents. When you're scanning documents in, and we want to automatically collect them into the vault and even add metadata and kick off a workflow. Speaking of workflow, we're also going to create and maintain and manage your workflows here within the server administrator piece. This is where we're also going to create your users, manage your backups, and do everything else from a server administration standpoint. So most of our customers have somebody on staff that's been trained on how to maintain and manage their mFiles server, their mFiles vault. If it's a cloud vault, then mFiles manages all of this for you. So it's a very easy system to be able to configure it to your requirements and your specifications. All right, let's create something from scratch. So we'll just open up Microsoft Word. Notice that there is an mFiles button up here in the command ribbon. This is that integration I spoke about with Microsoft Office. We'll use this again in a minute. But in the meantime, let's just create something simple. We'll create a proposal for Julie. File save as, I'll show you how that works, just to save it into mFiles. So now you won't have this step, but notice that it defaults right to mFiles user interface. All you do is click save. That pops open what we call this properties card. So now there's that structure I just showed you in the server. I can select my proposal, and now it's going to show me all of the metadata that's been predefined. Notice the asterisk will tell me these are required pieces of information. So within just a few seconds, I can classify this document and have it saved into the vault. I can type a letter, and it will find a customer from the list. I could then click on Create, and this document would be saved into mFiles. But let me show you a couple of other features that the Properties card has. So for example, notice down here we have a project property. And this project property now is only showing 3 projects, but notice they're all associated with this customer. If I delete this customer and I go back to the project property, it now shows me a much longer list. So now if I select a project, notice it's asking me if I want to auto-populate some other fields, which I say yes. Now it auto-populates the customer and auto-populates the contact. The whole purpose here is to just show you how you can relate fields together. Also, you can have a property on any of these documents that is an effective through date or an expiration date or whatever you might want to call it, that something is going to happen in the future. So for example, I could say this proposal expires in 30 days. So now I could create a view over here in my mFiles client that says show me all proposals expiring in 30 days, which means where this property is going to show up in less than 30 days from today. So that's a way that you can work with maintenance agreements or liability insurance certificates and those kind of things that have expiration dates. At the bottom of this properties card, you might also see that this is showing you who has access to it. So for a proposal, everybody can see it. But remember, mFiles is 100% metadata driven. So if I choose a different type of document here, for example, an HR document, now you can see that the permissions have been changed based on the class of document, which is a piece of the metadata. So what that means is, instead of seeing everybody having access to it, only a few people have access to this document. And you can control it individually for each document you save in the vault, or you can let it be globally controlled by the type of document that you're saving. Now over here is that section that I mentioned earlier that deals with workflow. So if this document was a vendor purchase invoice, for example, then now you can see it auto-populates that there's workflow on this document, and so the minute I hit create, it's going to kick off this workflow and follow those assignment steps. But let's leave it as a proposal and click create, which saves it back to the vault. Now all we have to do is close it and check it back in. And that takes us right back to mFiles and allows us to find the document any way that we want to find it based on any of the metadata or any of the contents of that document. So I can simply go up here to the search box and I could type in anything I want. For example, let's type in Julie, hit the return, and immediately finds whatever's in the vault that contains that word in either the contents or the metadata. So now you can see that if we sort this, there's the most current document on top, the one that we just created. And so now you can see all the metadata as well as a preview of that document, which will prompt us with the text. And since Julie's in the contents, it's going to show us the word Julie highlighted in yellow. Now, anytime you have a document in the vault, of course, the metadata will show you all the statistics about that document, who created it and when, and what version it's on. And of course, I can create a new version simply by typing something else down here. So if I typed the word Sam here, for example, and click Save, now I've created a second version of this document. And just like I searched for Julie, I can search for Sam and find anything in the vault that exists that has the word Sam. And so you can see it immediately found this document and highlighted that search term in yellow. Now, of course, remember, whenever I have a document highlighted, I can look at the history. And so this history shows me everything about all of the versions that exist in the vault. So you can see this version has the word Sam, whereas the original version, of course, did not have that description. Now, I can open this version, but only as a read-only, because it says this is not the current version or the latest version. So we're not going to let you edit this document. You can just look at it. Of course, I could open the most current document right from here and make a change to it simply by double-clicking on it and checking it back out. So now once we have it checked out, I could put something else into it. And now I can click Save and save this document to the vault. And now notice up here there's an mFiles button. So in the command ribbon, this is a part of that integration. So we're sitting here in Microsoft Word. I can click Compare. Takes me right back to the history of this document and allows me to select any prior version. I select one, say OK, and now it takes me right back to Microsoft Word, shows me the version I chose and what's different between them. And now you can track and merge and accept and reject and do all of those things that Microsoft Word will let you do. That just shows you the power of that integration. So now if we check this back in, of course it updates everything in the vault. So now that document, of course, is on version 3. Now again, once you have something in the vault, you can right-click on that document and you're offered a number of different choices. I could check this document out for a co-authoring session, which would allow me to put it up on Microsoft SkyDrive, send a secure link to multiple people where they can then edit that document simultaneously. This is for working with people outside your company. I could mark this document for offline use simply by clicking here. So now, if I'm sitting on an airplane and I'm not connected to the network, I can still work on this document without having to save it somewhere else on my laptop. I can just simply open up mFiles and it tells me that I'm not connected to the network and asks me if I want to work offline. And so I would say yes. Now it goes and checks to see what documents I had marked for offline views. And there's our document right there, Proposal 8066 with our 1,000 words in it and Proposal for Julie. And I could check it out just like I would normally. But now I get another notice that says, hey, by the way, you're working offline, so if somebody else modifies this document, when you come back in, you'll be notified. And of course, it will sync back up to the network if you do open it and make changes to it. Let's go back online. What I like to do, though, is let's find our document here under Recently Accessed and right-click on it. I like to use my favorites. So I'm just going to add this document to my list of favorites. And remember I showed you the favorites view down here. I like to keep my favorites view available offline. Simply by right-clicking on it, I can take this whole group of documents and mark them for offline use, which I've already done. So now if we are not connected to the network, and you may have noticed this a second ago, when I showed you the offline view, there was a view for favorites right here. So now look, there's our document 8066 that's in this group, as there are many other documents. And so this is our proposal for Julie that we just created, and we're now offline. So that's how I manage my documents. The other things that you can do, we go back to our document, right-click on it, is communicate. You can communicate this document either externally or internally simply by going down here to sharing. I could send a copy of this to a customer, for example, and convert it to a PDF in one click. And it's going to automatically open up my email, create the PDF, and attach it. Just that fast. Now, internal to your company, you no longer will ever send an attachment on an email again, because you're now going to deal in links. You're simply going to send a link. So simply by clicking on that selection, populates the email with the link that will take you right to that document in the vault. So these are all kinds of things that you can do from right-clicking on a document once you have it in the vault. Now, some of these views, if we go back to the home screen and we look at that customer view again, and we go down ESTT, we'll see the document that we just created showing up there on that list with our proposal for Julie. But it will also now show up in other views. So it'll show up on a projects view because we have it by project. We have a project assigned or associated with that document. And so there's a list of all the documents associated with that project, and there's our document showing up as well there. Now, it's not stored in these locations multiple times. This is just the path that we get there based on the relationships of all the metadata. And it will show up in these other views as well, like this documents by month and year, if we look at April of 2014. So now there's our proposal that we just created. Now remember, we stuck this effective through date on there. So let's look at one of these views like proposals expiring. I'm going to right-click on it and show you the properties of this view. This is how it was created. I simply gave it a name, and then I defined the filter to say the object type I'm looking for is a document, and then I want to see the days to this property called effective through less than 30 days from today. That's all I did. So any document that meets that criteria should show up here. So our document 8066 should be on that list because our effective through date is less than 30 days from today's date. So it's just that simple to create these very specific views to look at anything any way that you want to look at it. You can also create documents from templates. So we created a document from scratch, but you can create any number of templates, have them in your vault, and use them to create documents based on the template. The metadata that you choose, so you can see all this list of different metadata, can be set to pre-populate onto the document when you've created it. So now you can see in this template of this proposal that when we add the date and the customer, it will also put keywords, it'll also put a proposal number and description. I just stuck them out here in these locations to show you that when I open this document and add that information, it's going to put it onto that document in that location. So if I pick the date of today and I pick a customer from our list, and then notice that if I type in some keyword here like duck and down here elephant and click create, it's going to open up that document and you can see it put duck and it put elephant on there in those locations. So now you could do what you normally would do. You could customize this document any way that you see fit, and you can see it populated the customer with their address. Save it back to the vault, close it, checks it back in. So you have created a new document from this template. And any document can be a template because if you look at the properties, it just says, yes, this document is a template. So anything that you create can have that property added to it, even the proposal that we created. So for example, if you look at our 8066 proposal and look at the metadata, I could add that property to this document by typing an I and go to is template and say yes. Now when I save that, creates version 4 because I made a change to it, and now if I go to the list of templates, that document is going to be there. So there's our document 8066. And then the document that we created from the template if I type in Fred, so then you can see the document that we created just a second ago using that template because we typed in Dear Fred on the contents of it. So these are all kinds of things that you can do, based on creating documents from scratch, creating documents from templates, and managing documents in the vault, looking at them through these views. The search engine is very, very powerful and will do many different types of things. So for example, if I search on the word Frank, then it finds a number of documents in the vault. This document says, Dear Frank. This document says, Dear Frank. This document has the word Frank here. But let's assume for just a second that Frank is a vendor. These are invoices, but I only want the invoice that has Frank and 1000 on it. Now I hit return and it only brings me back this document because it has both of those terms on it. So now I can find any document in the vault because I'm using the all word search, and it's going to tell me what documents there are that meet that criteria. Now, another way that you can use searching, for example, is to find words that are together. So you can see here I typed in compensation, and there's a number of documents in the vault that have the word compensation somewhere on them, whether it's in the metadata. Here you can see it down here in the text of this PDF document. But if I wanted to find something related to somebody's compensation plan, where I wanted to find a document that had the word compensation and the word plan next to each other, then I would just type in within one word, show me the word plan. And I would use this Boolean search as a search type. Now it only brings back this one document from that whole list because that document contains the word compensation plan. So this is just a way to show you some of the flexibility and power that mFiles can do with all of the searching. All right, let's take a look very quickly now at how to build a hot folder, because we're going to do a scan and we're going to run a workflow. So here's a hot folder. The name of the folder, scan purchase invoices, the location out on the server. Here's the action box. We're going to import files, delete the source file when we're done. We're going to monitor that hot folder about every 10 seconds. Then here's where we're going to add the metadata. So we're going to know automatically that anything coming in there is a purchase invoice. It was created by the scanner. We're going to stick this workflow on it. And now we're going to start assigning properties. So you can see we signed Bargain Barn to be the vendor for everything that comes into this folder. But as far as invoice number, buyer, and dollar amount, we're going to pull those off of the document themselves because we know the XY location where invoice number lives. We know the XY location where buyer lives, and the same thing with amount. So when we convert these and do the scan, we're going to pick up that information and assign it as metadata properties. Then we're also going to use our OCR module to turn this into a fully text searchable PDF document. And that's all there is to creating a hot folder. The workflow that's assigned to this hot folder, actually to that type of document, is reviewing and accepting purchase invoices. It's a pretty straightforward 5-step workflow. Somebody's going to receive it and check it, and they're going to get an assignment. And their assignment is, if I go down here to who it's assigned to me, and then you can see my assignment is to check this invoice, add the GL code, due date, project, and the project manager. Because once I assign the project manager to it, that's who's going to get the next step that has to approve it. So the approval is only going to be done by who I assign as the project manager. And of course, both of these steps have deadlines so that you can take escalation action in the event that the deadline is not met. Once it's approved to be paid, then it gets sent to somebody in accounts payable named John, and John has to write the check and add this to the accounting system. Then you could put some other steps down here and make this, as complicated as you would like. Anything you can write down on paper can be built into mFiles as a workflow. In the next version that comes out, in version 11, we'll be able to import a Visio diagram directly into mFiles and have it create the workflow that is based on that Visio diagram. All right, so let's go run this workflow. Let's go find our scan folder out here on the C drive. purchase invoices. Okay, so it's empty. So now let's go find an invoice to bring into the vault. So I'm going to copy this purchase invoice right here. I'm going to paste it on my desktop. So now let's drag and drop this invoice right into the vault. So now we have this TIFF file sitting in this hot folder. mFiles is monitoring this hot folder, and as soon as it sees it, somewhere in that 10-second range, it's going to pick it up, bring it into the vault, delete the source file from here, and kick off that workflow. So all of that process is going to happen. And there it goes. So it's gone. Let's go back to the vault, and let's find it. Let's just type in workflow. Let's type in invoice. So sorry. And as you can see, when it comes back here, it's thinking about it, I guess, that it's going to show you all the invoices currently in the vault, including the one that we just scanned. So there's our list of invoices, and you can sort them by date modified. There's a lot of invoices you can see here in the vault. So here's the most current one, 430. And you can now see all the metadata associated with that invoice, including the dollar amount. We can see if it's correct. Once we look at the document it picked up, there's an invoice number, and there's a buyer. So if we look at the preview of this document, then we'll see, is that correct? So there's 434. There's a buyer. That looks correct. Number's a little small. Let's zoom in. Right-click, zoom in, click, click, click. And now I can move around the screen and look and see, is that number correct? Yep, looks to be correct. So we got the correct information from the conversion. Now you can also see that this has been assigned to me, and here's my assignment. Let's go open up our email, check our email. So here we are, 435. New assignment just came in from mFiles, and there you can see there's that link I mentioned early on, and there's my assignment. So I'm sitting at my desk. I just click on the link, takes me right to that invoice in the vault, and allows me to complete my workflow right from there. But I want to go back to the home screen and show you that third piece of the little mini dashboard. Now you can see that it's showing I have an assignment. Clicking on that document again does the same thing. Opens the link and takes me over here to my metadata. Now I can do my work. What am I supposed to do? Add the geocode, the due date, the project, and the PM. Okay, due date, 30 days. Got 30-day terms on this vendor. Project from the list. Project manager, and pick me, and the geocode. Click Save. Now we've created version 2. We've done our workflow. Now we have to complete it. Now you don't have to put a comment in here, but you can. We could say whatever you want to say, because mFiles knows who did this and when. So now this moves it to the next step in the workflow. Remember, I assigned myself as the project manager, so that's who has the next step. That's why it's still showing here. The reason I did that is because I want to show you what it looks like on your mobile phone. So here is the home screen after you've logged in on your mobile phone. Now, I know what you're saying, Dave, how do we know that's what it really looks like? Well, let me prove it to you. I have a view here with some pictures. Let's look at this picture. Here's a picture of my iPhone 5. You can see there's my app, and there's what that app looks like after I've logged in to my vault. So now you can see it's the exact same 4 selections that we've created here for you on this software simulation. So now let's find our document again. Go back to our mobile phone. Look for our assignment. Yep. So there. Now I'm not in the office, but I got an email that showed me, hey, you've got a workflow assignment. That's when I logged into mFiles. Let's look at the properties of this document. See the created date, 4/4 at 4:33. 4/4 at 4:33. Okay? Now we've proven that that's the same document. So now let's complete our workflow. Of course, I'm assuming that you would have opened it and looked at it, and now you're going to say it's okay. So now you could say okay to pay, and you tap done. You've now completed the workflow right from your smartphone. It's now going to communicate back to the vault. So now sitting back in the office, if you went back and logged in and looked at your assigned to me, this is going to go away. So now it's gone because that document now has been assigned to somebody else. And if you remember from the workflow, it's John. And John has to write the check and add this to the accounting system. Now all of those changes, even the workflow state changes, as you can see, and the comments that we created are part of the history of this document. Now you might have noticed when we briefly went over here to email that you have the ability to manage your email because you can see your folders here from you can see the vault on the left side of the screen right from your same folder structure that you're used to. So I'm going to send myself an email. Let's go open the vault or open our email and take a look. So now here's an email from a customer with an attached confirmation of order. So now again, you have M-Files button here within Outlook, so you have some integration. You can right-click and do whatever you want with it, including save it to M-Files. But more importantly, you can simply drag and drop this email right into the vault. So if you dragged it here, then this is what you would expect to happen. You would have to classify it as a confirmation of order and add the metadata. But what if you didn't have to do that? Notice I've created a smart folder here, and this smart folder has predefined M-Files properties. So now I've already said that this is a confirmation of order. I'm going to pull the date off the email, and I'm also going to search our customer base to see if there's a match on the email address that this came from. So now if I drag and drop it here, I don't have to classify it. Now you can see it indicates this email has been stored in M-Files, and I can go now back to the vault, and if I search on confirmation, for example, then I'll find confirmations in the vault, and you can see there 4:40 p.m. The green book looking icon means it's a multi-file location because we brought in 3 different things. We have the attachment, the PDF that you can look at. We have the email message itself, and we did find a customer. So now if we went and looked at a customer view, of course we're now going to see this confirmation of order showing up in that customer view. So if we went to ESTT and looked at their documents, now we can see at 4:40 today this confirmation of order showing up on their view. At the same time, this email message is now stored in the vault. I can open it right from here, and look, I can click reply right from within M-Files and send this email without ever having to go back into Microsoft Office, Microsoft Outlook. So that is a very quick look at M-Files. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, I highly encourage you to visit us at www.m-files.com, where you can contact us for any further information. Thank you very much.